Welcome to Picks with the Professor, the sports betting show hosted by a real statistics professor. This is Wednesday, March 19th, 2025. We're going to give a free pick out here for the later of the first four games, the final first four game in Dayton, Ohio, between Texas and Xavier. We will get to that shortly. Some quick reminders about the model here as we want to frame what you're about to see, just to make sure we're all on the same page. We do have a player-based model here that I affectionately call Sideline. It is a mathematical model that I have built, and that ratings reflect the current roster thing really is impactful for injuries. And of course, that unfortunately is a part of the game and will be a big part of the tournament, as we're already seeing with Duke and Iowa State and who knows who else that is on that list. The average reads 100 higher and applies more points. We are predicting an average game. We cannot predict the future. We do not know what's going to happen. Jake, we're recording this right now in the middle of the North Carolina game, and we aren't really too distracted because North Carolina is currently winning about 100-0 after having already gone on two. I don't know if they were technically Evan Maya kill shots or what, but they were two. They killed them shots. Which is really all that matters. There's still time to go, so who knows? But that's the kind of the concept we talk about. We don't really know what's going to happen. Weird things happen. It's been a weird first half so far. That first game was kind of weird too, to be honest. And that's the point, is that we don't focus on one game here, one game there. We focus on winning more when we win than we lose when we lose. You've probably heard me say that a bunch of times, and that's what leads to the principle. Anything's a good bet at the right price or number. We're only going to cover one game here, but if you're looking for all of the projections, and if you're looking for more college basketball picks, both from Jake and from our very own, one of our OGs here, Sports Betting Jake, who has been crushing college basketball ever since we decided to kind of toy into this other cappers, thinking you got some people here who know what they're doing, and let's figure out a way to really make sure everyone else knows that rather than just some of us. And, some great college basketball picks over there. All the hockey picks. We finally lost our 7-day winning streak of hockey by losing a grand 1 unit on Monday, but we're back with a vengeance here on Tuesday. And we're looking like we might have a 5 or 6 unit night, maybe not quite that good, but we got a good chance at a pretty positive night here in the NHL. MLB coming soon. College football, we just printed money in the last 2 years here. And, of course, all new low pricing, only $29.99 per month. And the link in the show description will get you half off of your first month. Xavier in Texas, of course. We talked about the building last night with regards to the total. We're not going to touch the total here, but you did kind of see one of the things that I was talking about in that first game with a really slow start for that first four to that first under 4 timeout, and then the rest of the first half picked up, and the second half wasn't then quite as fast as the first half. So you see some weird things tempo-wise with that building, which we talked about, which doesn't quite make a lot of sense. Just of note there, again, we don't know if we've won or not our pick here. We did great last week. Hopefully we start off with a bang, but we haven't even halftime yet, so we don't know. North Carolina seems to be doing their part, at least. So we're halfway there to that over. Xavier in Texas. Texas long been talked about, and I mentioned this on the bracket show on part 1, I believe, which is already out. Part 2 will be out here. We are watching this on Wednesday. It'll be out Wednesday during the day. So we'll finish up the bracket here as well. Everyone talking about Texas. Everyone talking about how they should or shouldn't have been in, and the way that A&M game ended, and some questionable calls there as well. No one's really talking about Xavier. Xavier's a better team, and Xavier's playing closer to home. What does that all amount to? They're the better team, but the difference between number 34 and 42 is not that much. It's not like the difference between number 363 and 364. Sorry, Mississippi Valley State, you shouldn't be playing basketball. Yeah. And so the idea here is that these two teams are pretty close. So we're going to take Texas plus 3.5. Jake, the model would tend to agree with that and say you're getting some good value here, getting some points with Texas. Why are you liking Texas in this spot in a game that you think maybe it's closer to 50-50? The model thinks it's closer to 50-50 than the market is.
Yeah, I think this is a good money line spot as well. I like Texas, not just because they came out of the SEC, but being battle tested throughout the SEC does have value. Fighting through Texas A&M, Florida, and all those. I mean, they played Tennessee close twice. They obviously beat Texas A&M in overtime. Seeing teams like that play the gambit of styles that show up in the SEC too, really benefits, and having probably Trey Johnson averaging 20 points in the SEC, and I think he led this league in scoring, is ridiculous as a freshman. And long time ago, I think it was Jay Billis that said it, but come February, freshmen aren't freshmen anymore. Like, you can't use that against them. They've played enough games. They've played enough through the league. We can't use that anymore. He's just a regular player that is just outstanding, just happens to be young. Xavier doesn't have the defense to eliminate him. I mean, Tennessee's whole game plan was make him take impossible shots and try your best to keep him from having the ball. I think he took 5 shots and made 4 of them. Like, it was ridiculous, and he was making ridiculous shots. Xavier doesn't have a Jamal Maychak or anything like that. And they went on that huge streak at the end of the year, and I think that really kind of cemented them in where they just kind of beat everybody. But I don't know that the wins were that impressive. Like, if you start looking at it, you go at Providence. Providence had a year. Georgetown is nothing special. They lose at Villanova, beat Providence again. Butler, DePaul, Seton Hall. I mean, Creighton is the first tournament team you run into on that win streak. And then they lose to Marquette in the Big East tournament. So, like, I think we're overvaluing what Xavier is, and I don't think that Ryan Conwell is going to be able to shoot as hot as he needs to keep them in. Fremantle forgot he was playing, if I'm honest. He leads the team in scoring and rebounds, had a great year. After, like, looking into this, I was like, oh, yeah, he hurt himself early last year. That really kind of hurt Xavier. Didn't play the whole year.
Yeah.
Totally forgot about him. I mean, he's averaging 17 and 7, so it's not like he's had a bad year. It's just the SEC dominated all the headlines. But then again, you've got Texas, who's got Arthur Kaluma to come up behind, and then Trayvon Mark. I love the adjustment. Terry finally made an adjustment to anything. It was having Mark run the offense and having the offense kind of run around him and letting Trey Johnson just run around. Getting Pope going too is big. Getting like, they've got so many guys, but like adding Weaver back, adding another shooter, another guard, just adds a little bit more depth. Kent, Larry, Shadrick, Kaluma, they're all big guys that do well. I think they've got enough to counter what Xavier does, and they've got the better 9-1-1 player. So in a game that's probably going to be a possession or two either way, I want the best player on the court to be on the side I'm on, because I'm hoping he's got the ball with something special to do at the end. And if he does, that could push us to a win, could push us to a cover. Who knows? But I'd rather have the best player on the court on my side.
And I want to just make a slight adjustment too to something you said. You talked about, you kind of think it'll be a close game or whatever. And of course, we know probability wise, it's 20, 30, 40% to land right in that ballpark and whatnot. And so, but I like what you said, because in those other scenarios, it kind of doesn't matter. And that's what we talk about all the time. It's about the right price and the right number. And if Xavier wins this game by 12, there was no number that mattered. If Texas wins this game by 12, there was no number that mattered. And that's where people get confused a lot of times, because we see that a lot. A lot of times the number doesn't matter. And that's not even what we're concerned about. What we're concerned about is getting good numbers, because when they matter, they matter. And they matter 10%, 20%, 30%, whatever it may be at the time. And so I think that's what you're saying is, like, who knows what's going to happen? Dayton games get weird. But if it's a close game, we like the way that it sets up for us at the end. Jake, I like the fact that I am not going to have to watch this game. I will be on an airplane to Texas to see my father for March Madness. It's our annual tradition. We've been doing it for, 15 years now. But he's a Texas alum and very pessimistic. Not a big Terry fan. And so I chuckled when you said finally made an adjustment. I'm like, I've heard some of these things before a few times. And I'm just glad I don't have to be there to witness it. I'm personally thinking more +3.5 than money line, simply because if Texas loses this game by 2, I'm going to be sitting pretty, because we've won our bet, and then I don't have to listen to my dad rant about Texas for 2 whole days until they play again. So that's what I'm going for. But from a what's the smartest money-wise decision, I think the money line makes a lot of sense. I think there's a lot of ways Texas just wipes the floor with Xavier. I'm not saying they do. Again, we aren't magicians. We aren't sorceresses or sorcerers or whatever. words. And anything can happen in one game, and you never want a team's going to just, not show up. And I don't mean that any not show up like they don't care, but how many times have we seen a tournament team get waxed? And it's like, it's not that they didn't show up. They just had a terrible day. And sometimes that happens, right?
I mean, this North Carolina-San Diego State game is a perfect example. I mean,
so far kind of playing out
like 24 at half. Who saw that coming? Because that line was relatively similar to what we're getting here.
Right. So, there's but you mentioned that with North Carolina, and that was kind of where I wanted to loop around to this. We talked yesterday on this show about the total, and that's still up in the air. You had said you like North Carolina. You were kind of toying with a number. We were kind of debating back and forth. You gave out North Carolina as an official pick to our Discord, along with other picks here for the early part of the tournament. And so those are cashed, especially depending on, some of the sports books do the whole up early and you can't, they're done, right? If you took North Carolina money line or whatever, you're in, and if you've got a spread, you're fine, probably. We didn't have that as an official pick on the show, but I wanted to talk about your reasonings for liking North Carolina, because I think they're similar to Texas. Now, that doesn't mean, I want to make sure, viewer, listen. I'm not saying because North Carolina looks good, Texas is going to win tomorrow. That's not what that means. But I liked your reasoning for North Carolina, which was basically they played a bunch of really good teams and they lost to all of them. But all of them were top 20 teams. And that's the thing is okay, so we know North Carolina can't beat a top 20 team. We've proven that. It's going to take massive amount of luck, the right guy getting hot, an asteroid falling from the sky, I don't know, in order for them to beat a top 20 team. But that's not the criteria for making the tournament, right? And that's where it's now who are you matched up against? They're not matched up against the top 20 team. I'm wondering your take on Texas in that same way. We talked about the SEC. We talked about a lot of that schedule. That's where I'm looking at this going. There's a world where people are Texas was 14th in the SEC, kind of writing them off, but going through that grind, not that Xavier's a wash, they could just crush them, but it's just maybe a little bit different with regards to depth, maybe the physicality, maybe some of the athleticism, some of that stuff. Is it possible, or how likely do you think it is that tonight's game Wednesday with Texas plays out like what's now last night's game with North Carolina? At least last night's first half. I don't know the second half. We can't predict that yet.
I think it is less likely Texas blows Xavier out than it would. If you were asking me this yesterday, and I'm picking who's going to blow the other one out, which one's going to be a blowout, I think North Carolina leads itself to larger winning and losing margins than either Texas Xavier does, because of the pace they want to play at, how crazy they can get, and how dumb decisions. And sometimes I don't have a clue what Hubert Davis is thinking as he's playing or coaching. Sometimes you see North Carolina, you're going to get drilled because they're just not smart sometimes. And then other times everything's going right, like you're saying right now. Everything's going right. They're playing good defense and they're scoring, threes are going. That's tough. I think Xavier and Texas are just bound to be a closer game. I trust that Texas had going through the SEC versus the Big East.
And that's, obviously a thing to point out, of course. North Carolina is just a higher variance team with the way they play, right? They're more likely to get blown out or blow out. So that's of course, a fair point. But, I think with Texas, while they don't really have that calling card, I think that's what prevents them from making a deep run. They don't really have they got a great end of the game guy, but that's not you're going to need more than that. You're going to need to get to the end of the game. It's close. And that's where they're going to struggle against the really good teams. But for us, we don't have to worry about them playing a really good team. They're playing just an okay team in Xavier, at least okay relative to other tournament teams. And so this is pretty close to 50-50. We're going to take the plus 3.5. That's going to be our official pick on the sheet where we do grades. It's set up to do spread and not money line, but I think the money line makes a lot of sense. Jake, are you kind of 50-50 on your split there? Or do you think it makes sense to go more? Okay, not more one way than the other.
Yeah, I'm going 50-50 here, but a full unit apiece. It's not I'm not taking and splitting my bet. I'm putting it on each because I think good chance I'll double my money up here.
All right. I like that. So we're gonna take Texas. Other ways you can support the show involve, of course, Dub Club. The honor roll gets so much information. Here's a glimpse of that information for this one game. Got them all for all the NIT games, all the other tournament games. And you also have the option of supporting the show by just throwing $1 our way for your first month of picks only. It's regularly $9.99 per month. Check that out. See if you're enjoying the hockey picks. I don't know how you wouldn't. And then, of course, baseball coming soon. And so a lot of ways to get involved here. We will have a survivor pool as well open to everyone. We talked about this a little bit in the bracket show. We'll have information coming out on that in the future on social media platforms, the links to sign up. We may throw in the link description here on YouTube. I can't promise that, but if nothing else, on social media, and everybody who's with us on Dub Club will get the link to join our free survivor pool. Haven't figured out the prize winnings yet, but we're going to give away some stuff. We're going to give away some subscriptions for sure to some people, depending on how that goes. So we got to set that up, of course, but there will be some prizes for people. Jake, parting words here before we sign off and start heading into the main part of the tournament here Thursday.
I challenge you to test us. Test us with $1. Come in, see the picks. I know you'll get in and it'll be like, I want it all. And you'll jump up to the honor roll package and then get everything and just make all the money that we've been making here recently with like sports betting. Jake is killing college basketball. I'm helping out where I can. The NHL is just crazy. Baseball, but you don't have to. When we have these extra sports like NHL and MLB and football and all that, you don't have to be a fan of those sports. You don't have to know much about them to just know, trust how the results are going, and then go there because we got
soccer. We crushed WNBA last year. A couple of our people in the WNBA chat just destroyed last year. So it's printing money all summer. It's crazy.
It's just like I said, just test us. Throw us $1, test us out. I know it will convert you.
Well, and of course, reminder the other handicappers are only in the honor roll package, but you can get your first month of that for half off with the link in the show description. But the other handicappers, we are going to try to figure out a way to get maybe some of their free picks into the Discord so that people can also see them as well. So you can get a little bit of a taste of it, and then we know you're gonna want more because it's just so many winners. But the other thing that I wanted to mention, Jake, that I think is important to people is to know that the people that we're bringing on to also kind of highlight them and their picks, it's the same mentality that we have, right? And so I'm calling these people, and you, Jake, are one of them, affectionately graduate assistants, right? Playing with the theme of it. But it's the idea that not to say you're my disciple necessarily, but we all are of the same mindset that we aren't just trying to pick winners. We're trying to find the right value because A, picking winners is super hard, and B, if you're picking winners at minus 200 and you win 60% of them, you're going to lose so much money, right? Or if you're picking winners but they can't cover the spread, right? And so that's the thing, is we're all of the same mindset of this is a good number, this is a good bet. That number moved, we shouldn't be making it because now we don't have any more value, because we want to be making smart value bets here, and that's how we make money. So hopefully that makes sense to you. Thank you, viewer, so much for watching. Again, we got a bunch of other March Madness content either already out, hopefully you haven't missed it, or coming out here soon. And so, of course, as we wrap up, we wish you the best of luck, and thank you for watching, and remind you that you can eat your betting money. Please don't bet your eating money.